Right, so we are live. So hello and welcome, Vivien. Thank you for coming onto the PCOS and Nutrition podcast today, and I'm excited to delve into this episode and topic. So in this episode, we are talking all about the gut and PCOS. I always love talking about this topic because the gut is more important than we think. Our gut health affects our overall health, and many people are just not aware of the connection. But before we get into the whole gut health and PCOS discussion, can you share your journey in which you were struggling with hormonal and digestive issues during early adulthood?
Yeah, of course. So it started around age 18. I was really healthy throughout my childhood and teen years at school. Never had a problem, was never off sick, perfect attendance, all of those things. And it was when I left school, I was feeling a bit self-conscious. I think that's why I started looking into my exercise routine. And at that moment in time, my diet wasn't the best. So I joined the gym and I would go there near enough every day, exercising, doing classes back to back and kind of really stressing my body out. And then I started to change my diet a little bit, trying to eat more healthy, quotes, what I thought was healthy. So salads, no fat, no carbohydrates, like cereal with skimmed milk, all of these things. And obviously I was doing too much exercise, not fueling my body enough, and that kind of stressed my body out, and I lost my period for 4 months. I developed cystic acne. I felt horrible, even though I looked good. Inside I was kind of terrible with my health. And after the 4 month mark, I went to my GP thinking my periods have been perfect, like bang on every month. No PMS, no acne, and now all this has happened and I'm trying to be healthy, so what's going on? So that's when I went to my GP and he sent me for an ultrasound. It showed that I had the cystic appearance on my ovaries and some of my blood work was out of whack as well. So my androgens were high and he diagnosed me with PCOS. And the only treatment option that he mentioned, he didn't really ask about my diet or my lifestyle. And then he said the only treatment option is to go on the pill. So that's what I did. Obviously, when you've got these problems, you want them to clear up immediately, especially being that young. You just do anything to clear your acne and stop your hair loss, because that was another big symptom that I had. And so I went on the pill, and the first one I went on for around 3 months, but I had horrible side effects. It just didn't suit me at all. Depression, my hair loss was 10 times worse, so was my acne. And so I had to change pills. And then I went on Yasmin for approximately 2 years after that. And that did help clear my skin. My skin was amazing. My hair loss did stop, but it never grew back. My body hair just never grew, which at the time was a good thing. Like, never had to shave my legs. I think I shaved them like twice in 2 years, which was really strange, but kind of I thought that was a good thing. And yeah, I stayed on that. So it did help in some ways, but then after coming up to the 2 year mark, I started to notice other things that weren't that right. I started developing food intolerances, and I'd never had a problem with food reactions before. I could eat anything. And also like anxiety and mood problems, immune system problems and digestive issues. But it wasn't until I got food poisoning while working at a summer camp in America, and I got really bad food poisoning and developed a lot of severe digestive issues like bloating, diarrhea, bad pains. I couldn't eat anything without my stomach swelling up and being really in pain from the gas. And then I went to see a nutritional therapist myself, and she did a lot of testing on me, food intolerance testing, stool testing, and that discovered that I had parasitic infections, yeast overgrowths, bacterial overgrowths, lots of food intolerances, and just like really bad inflammation. And then dealing with that, along with coming off the pill, that's when I kind of got into more health, real health, looking at how I was feeling my body. I kind of cut back on the exercise by then as well. So I was exercising moderate amounts, but not pushing my body, and I learned how to fuel my body correctly through her help. And yeah, I started to see improvements when we improved my gut health. We restored a lot of the deficiencies that the gut problems and the diet and the pill had caused through supplements and a nutrient-dense diet. And then I started to see improvements myself. And now I'd say I'm 95% better than what I was. There's still days where I have like a sensitive gut or an acne flare up. My hair's growing back. I kind of find it annoying that I've got all this regrowth, but you kind of have to deal with that. It's a positive thing, but it's a bit annoying in the short term. And now, yeah, due to my own experiences, I work with women who have gone through similar things, who are dealing with PCOS, gut issues, hormonal imbalances, acne, all of these things, and I have a real passion for it.
Wow, your story is like so much similar to mine. I'm just like, yes, this like what happened to me with the birth control pill and like changing it all the time because I was getting these bad side effects.
Yeah.
But for me, like the last thing that made me stop it was my left calf swelling. And
I had that as well.
I was so scary. I was freaking out. I was like, I'm gonna die.
Yeah, I'd have really bad calf cramps every single night. For about a year when I was on the pill, and I never correlated it to the pill. You know, there's all these scary stories, especially with the pill that I was on, which was Yasmin.
Yeah, I heard a lot about that.
Yeah, there's a lot of lawsuits against Yasmin for people dying of blood clots and horrible conditions. And yeah, at the time I'd have severe leg cramps in the middle of the night every day. I'd wake up crying it was that painful, so I'm so glad I got off it, but it's scary to think what could have happened.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I compared to other women, I was only on it for 15 months and I had that problem. But like you said, I went through like depression, anxiety. I never experienced panic attacks before in my life. Yeah. And I was like, what is going on? Everything was just going wrong. So I was like, this isn't right. And like, when I went to the doctor, they didn't ask me anything about my diet or my lifestyle. They were just like, cut carbs without even knowing, do you even eat a lot of carbs? Like, how would do you eat? It's so frustrating. But it's just like, they've got very limited. I think they've just got a handout of PCOS. Generic information
for everyone, dependent on whether you're overweight, underweight, stressed out your mind, got severe gut issues or not. You all get the same advice, which is sad.
Yeah, but your story is like literally similar to mine. I probably didn't have most of the symptoms you had, but like I would say it's pretty similar. Yeah. And it's just it's quite it's upsetting. So let's get into the whole gut health, gut and PCOS connection. So what is the connection between gut health and PCOS?
Yeah, so there's several different mechanisms. I'll just go over the main ones today. Because it is a massive subject, but the gut is not only linked to PCOS, it's linked to every system in the body. So any condition that you can imagine, it's probably linked to gut health in some way. And that's because the gut's not only the centre of our body, it's also the centre of our health and well-being, and it can be the root cause of a lot of problems. So it's always one of the first places that I look, but in PCOS specifically, it is commonly imbalanced for several different reasons. So our immune system's located primarily in our gut. So around 70% of our immune tissue is actually located in the intestines, which is quite surprising to many people, but there's more and more research coming out about the connection between immunity, like probiotics, that's getting a lot of research at the moment. And it's the fact that our immune system controls inflammation that's one of the big drivers of PCOS, along with insulin resistance. So when our gut's not happy, that can have a knock-on effect on our skin health, our liver health, our mental health, and our hormones as well. So if we're not absorbing things correctly, we don't have these building blocks to create healthy hormones, to use them efficiently and to get rid of them once we've used them. So in PCOS, there can be a lot of elevated hormones, specifically androgens, which are male hormones, testosterone, DHEA, but also estrogen as well can be elevated relative to progesterone. And if our body and liver doesn't have the correct nutrients and cofactors to get rid of these hormones once we've used them. They can recirculate in the body and then lead to a lot of the symptoms we commonly have, like acne, weight gain, hirsutism, skin rashes, all of these things, because our body's not detoxifying, and it can cause them to recirculate and then cause cycles to go out of whack and all of these things. Another way that PCOS is connected to gut health is through dysbiosis. So it's actually, in new research, it's coming out that women with PCOS often have altered gut microbiome. So that's our gut bacteria. Women with PCOS often have higher levels of bad bacteria and lower diversity. So we want to think of our microbiome as like a rainforest, and we want lots of different species in there, everything in harmony. There's obviously going to be some bad guys in there, but it's predominantly good guys keeping things under control. But in women, we have less diversity, so we have less species in there, and we're more prone towards having more bad bacteria. And what this bad bacteria does is create inflammation. It can lead to something called leaky gut. I don't know if your audience is aware of leaky gut, also known as intestinal permeability, but that's basically where the microscopic lining of your small intestine becomes permeable or leaky, and then particles from your food or toxins from bacteria can seep through into your bloodstream and cause this immune reaction. And as I said before, leaky gut is linked to many different chronic health conditions, and it's the driver of inflammation. And it's also been shown that dysbiosis and gut inflammation can drive insulin resistance as well, which is one of the other main drivers of PCOS. So there are several different mechanisms, but definitely for women with PCOS, gut health is one of the first places that I investigate.
Yeah, definitely. But I was going to say, what might be causing women with PCOS to have like this imbalance, like more of the bad bacteria? Obviously, if they're on the birth control pill, it can cause it. But let's say you're not on it and you're like, what causes it?
Yeah, so there's several different mechanisms that can affect gut health. One of the big things is antibiotic use. So whether it was early on in childhood, that is a big factor of how your gut health is going to be for the rest of your life. So if you were born, if your mother was on a lot of antibiotics, that will pass on to your gut health. If within the first few months of life you were given antibiotics for infections, or for several different reasons in childhood, you had ear infections, tonsillitis reoccurring, that can really destroy a lot of your gut bacteria. And it's believed that when you have either one course of antibiotics, it can cause effects that aren't repairable. So it can destroy the bad bacteria and they might not be able to regrow. And other medications, like you said, the pill, NSAIDs, so these are things like paracetamol, ibuprofen, aspirin, these non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. These can have negative effects on the gut microbiome as well, as can antacids, so PPIs, omeprazole. All of these stomach acid blocking medications can cause disruptions and dysbiosis in the gut as well. And other things include poor diet. So when we don't have a diverse diet, it's all very beige, bland, processed. We're not going to get the food to feed the good bacteria. And like we said before, we want a wide, diverse, colourful range of bugs and food in our diets as well to feed them.
That's interesting. Like people are not aware of the fact that even paracetamol or ibuprofen, all this stuff can actually affect your gut. Because like people are often addicted to this stuff. Like they feel some pain or anything. It's like, give me some paracetamol. But now that people will be aware that it can actually potentially affect your gut health, your second thinking, like you will probably go
especially for it. Women with hormone problems, maybe at the PMS week, kind of, even if they don't have any symptoms yet, they'll kind of take it preemptively. So they'll think, I'm going to get cramps tomorrow.
Just in case.
I'll start the paracetamol just in case. But next time, maybe think, do I really need this? Is there something else I can be doing? Are there any natural supplements or lifestyle things that I could do instead?
Exactly.
That won't affect my gut health negatively.
Exactly. So How do you know, what are some of the symptoms that someone might be experiencing to let them know that there's something wrong with their gut? So we mentioned some of the other stuff, like briefly, but could you identify some of the signs and symptoms of a poor gut?
Yeah, so some of the major symptoms that people might be experiencing when the gut health isn't optimal would be the common constipation, diarrhea, bloating, pain in the abdomen, urgency, excessive gas, heartburn and reflux, any of these things. But commonly, people with PCOS and an imbalance in their gut health don't experience a lot of digestive symptoms, which is strange, but this is also a thing with celiac patients as well. So celiac disease is when you have an autoimmune allergic response to gluten. And a lot of these patients actually go to the GP with other symptoms, such as weight loss, rashes, joint pain, and then it's found out that they have celiac disease and they have zero digestive symptoms. So that's a good indication that even though you don't have any gut symptoms at all, you might be experiencing some imbalances. So it's not always having outward symptoms that indicates poor gut health.
Okay, interesting. I wouldn't have known that.
Yeah.
So what are the indicators of a healthy gut?
Yeah, so obviously the opposite of what I've just said. So not dealing with the gas, pain after eating, diarrhea, constipation, going to the toilet ideally 1 to 3 times a day. So at least once every day, and it shouldn't look strange. It should be the right colour. It shouldn't smell really offensively. You shouldn't be having excessive gas. A bit is normal, but excessive burping or anything like that isn't normal. And not having any food intolerances or reactions. So if you eat something and notice, oh, I get a headache, I get diarrhea after eating that, that's not normal either. We shouldn't really be reacting to a lot of foods. But definitely not feeling like your food sits in your stomach for hours either. You should feel fine after eating. You shouldn't be affected by any pains, and definitely no like blood or mucus in your stools as well, because that's abnormal.
Okay, interesting. So what kind of foods should someone like avoid, or what should you eat more of for a healthy gut? So we said like we should eat more vegetables, colourful foods.
Yeah.
What else would you recommend?
Yeah, so there are some big offenders when it comes to gut health, and this is very general. So some people might be fine with these foods, but there's 2 in particular, gluten and dairy, and these 2 have been found in particular to be related to poor gut health, leaky gut, and inflammation as well. So some people know that they have lactose intolerance, so they avoid milk and things like that. But there's also another protein in the dairy called casein, and this is the one that's quite inflammatory. So some people avoid, like I say, the milk and the liquid dairy products, but they say, oh, I'm fine with cheese. I can eat other things on occasion, but it can still be a problem in a lot of people, especially if you're dealing with inflammatory symptoms, like I say, joint pain, migraines, skin rashes, and especially acne. I would say that dairy should be one of the first foods to avoid. Gluten as well. You can have the celiac disease, like we mentioned, so that's an allergy to gluten, but there is a spectrum of that. So doctors think you either have celiac disease or you're completely fine with gluten, but there is like this shade of grey where it's called non-celiac gluten sensitivity. So although you don't get vomiting and diarrhea as soon as you eat bread or pasta, it can be causing a low-grade inflammation in the body, and this could be driving your hormone imbalances and your other chronic health conditions as well. But obviously the other foods that you want to be avoiding are things that we all know about, but are we all avoiding these as much as we could be, like refined sugar, fizzy drinks, cakes, pasta, bread, processed food, so buying a lot of ready meals or frozen cooked products, biscuits, all of these things. We all know intuitively that they're not good for us, but if we're dealing with PCOS specifically, it is really important to avoid them as much as possible.
Yeah. I was going to just ask you something, because this is something I went through for quite a few months, and I didn't know why, but I've also come across other people on social media who are suffering from the same thing. Like, some people eat veg. Like, for me, I tried to go on like somewhat of a vegetarian kind of cut back on meat for like ethical reasons.
Yeah.
And I was eating lots and lots of veg and beans and all this healthy food. We all know beans and legumes is all healthy. But for some reason, whenever I was eating this, I was just becoming so bloated. I looked so inflamed. And then since I cut back on eating them, at one point I just stopped eating veg for some period of time, and beans, and I lost like all this. It might have not been like weight, like actual fat gain. It was like bloating and inflammation. So I just find that I don't know I've never actually understood what it might have been. Like, I know vegetables and legumes and beans all have this like the fiber and all that, but I just never like really understood it.
Yeah. So the first thing I'd say is you need to start slowly. So someone who's eating the standard American diet, where it's just basically cereal, sandwich and pasta for your dinner, and then they go to like a vegan diet, they're eating vegetables at every meal, loads of fiber, loads of beans. If they make that switch too quickly, that can kind of shock the gut, and the gut bacteria can't adapt to that quickly. So definitely start slowly, and maybe increase 1 or 2 portions of vegetables or a serving of beans per day, and slowly over the weeks just try and increase your levels. But another big thing is for someone who says, I commonly hear this, I feel worse when I increase my fiber. That is a big indication of a gut imbalance in some way as well. And that's because maybe you have the wrong balance of good and bad bacteria. So if your gut bacteria is not in balance and you've got this dysbiosis, all this fiber can be feeding a lot of the bad bacteria as well. So definitely that indication would be a sign that you have maybe some dysbiosis or some inflammation in your gut, and it's not prepared for the intake of all this fiber. And even though it's healthy food, because you have maybe an imbalance in your gut, it's not working for you at the moment. But if you do work on your gut and treat those overgrowths and rebalance it, it's definitely recommended to increase a lot of vegetables in the future, but that could take months after working on your gut as well. And there are specific vegetables in particular that can be quite bothersome for a lot of people. So these include the prebiotic foods. So these are the things that feed your good bacteria a lot. These include garlic, onions, asparagus, broccoli, onions and artichokes. So these prebiotic fibers, if you're increasing a lot of those in your diet, they might be the ones that are the main problem. So you could try eating a lot of vegetables that don't include those things and see how you get on. But definitely, if you're still having problems with just all the vegetables, that's a big sign that that there's some imbalance going on that needs investigating.
Yeah, I think personally for me, it might have been because I've always eaten like Mediterranean diet, healthy. So I think in my case, it might have been too much of a drastic switch, because I would eat vegetables, every day, whatever. Maybe I was eating if I was eating beans twice a day, that might have been too much. I think my body was just like, whoa, what's going on?
I think so.
But I think you have to ease your way into it.
Yeah.
And it's possible that I still had some issues with my gut from like the birth control pill, and I never actually fully focused on fixing it first. I kind of worked on it, but I think now that I was focused on eating, drinking that kombucha and having that, was it sauerkraut?
Sauerkraut,
yeah. I've been eating that. I'm just like, it's actually really helping.
Yeah.
So yeah, recently I've just been really focusing on myself as well, because sometimes you get like focused on work and you get you don't really
definitely
sight of your own health. But yeah, that's some good tips. Pretty useful. So what are some of the lifestyle factors someone should take into consideration when trying to work on trying to heal their gut or improve it?
Yeah, so we've spoken about some of the things that affect gut health. So I mentioned the antibiotic use, the unnecessary use of certain medications. So preemptively using the anti-inflammatory drugs and the painkillers. Do you really need to use that many or that frequently? Every month for your PMS. If you come down with tonsillitis or an ear infection, I'm not saying don't listen to your doctors and don't go on antibiotics, but sometimes certain infections can just clear up within a week. And especially if you're being prescribed antibiotics for something like a cold or flu, that is just ridiculous, because it's not actually going to work to kill a virus, because they're antibiotics or antibacterial agents. So the fact that they've been used for decades as treatment for cold and flus or sniffles by doctors, it's kind of making the whole thing worse, because it's killing off the good bacteria that are your immune system, and it's not having any effect on the virus. And your body can then not fight the virus naturally. But also, like I said, with the diet as well, you have a lot of control over your diet in a lot of cases. So getting that diverse range of foods, the more limited our diet is, the less nutrients we're exposed to as well. So getting a lot of plants, different types of meats and fibers and healthy fats, as much diversity as possible is the best with our diet.
Yeah. I was going to say something and my brain just like completely just forgot what I was going to.
Another thing as well is stress. Sorry.
Oh yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, lifestyle. If you're not managing your stress, that's going to have major impact on your gut health. We know that stress alters the good to bad bacteria ratio, so it lowers the good bacteria and it makes the bad bacteria more able to thrive and take over. So you may notice when your immune system's low, you might get a increase of cold sores or thrush or UTIs, and that's because your immune system's been suppressed by stress. And stress has also been a factor linked to leaky gut as well. So I was mentioning the permeable lining of the gut. Stress can directly impact that and cause a lot of systemic problems throughout the body.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, stress is a huge, like, it's just massive when it comes to chronic illnesses, hormone imbalances, your gut, everything. It just affects everything. You need to like manage your stress in whatever way you can, and sleep and all that stuff, you know, it's gonna help manage it. Otherwise, it's just, stress is just bad. But so what are probiotics beneficial for PCOS and gut health?
I'd say yes in certain cases. So like I was saying before, if someone with severely compromised gut health, so they have lots of overgrowth of bacteria and yeast, if they then put a probiotic in there, that may cause a lot of chaos in the gut and a lot of excessive gas or increased symptoms relating to your gut health. So in a lot of the cases, yes, they do help, but it depends on like the brand, the species, the strains. They all do different things in the body. So just go into the shop and buying a generic probiotic and you're not quite sure what it does, it's quite cheap. It might not have any effect and it might be a waste of money compared to some of the practitioner brands that you can get that actually go in the gut and make changes. They help to kill off some of the bad bacteria and rebalance things. And also, some people believe that when you take a probiotic, that just like implants in the gut and repopulates the whole thing, but they're actually, the majority of them are transient, so they only have effects during the time that you're taking them. So a good time to take them is after taking antibiotics. So if you definitely have to take a round of antibiotics, I would always follow that up with probiotics just to just rebalance your immune system a bit and give your body a bit of support. But as soon as you stop taking them, the effects kind of wear off within a few days. So a good way to overcome this is through the intake of fermented foods like yourself. You're taking the kombucha and the sauerkraut. That's a good way to get probiotics in every day, and it's a lot cheaper. Your body recognises it more than something in a capsule, and yeah, it's a good way just at every meal to just have a spoonful of something. Other things are kefir and kimchi as well. So they're all kind of like pickles that taste, it's an acquired taste, but I think the benefits kind of outweigh the taste aspect.
Yeah. Yeah, because like some of them just taste like, it's like,
yeah.
just like do it for the health.
Yeah, definitely. But in some cases as well, like myself, I can't actually tolerate fermented foods. It is quite rare, but I have something called a histamine intolerance. So when something's aged, like cheese or alcohol or fermented foods, when they've been exposed to a process with bacterial fermentation, that can affect a lot of people who are sensitive, myself included. So some symptoms that I would get after including fermented foods, because I did this for years and I was thinking, why am I not feeling better? I would have itchy skin, I would have like a runny nose, my skin would break out, and I'd have anxiety. So if you try to increase some of these fermented foods and you feel like maybe your symptoms are getting worse, or you've got any of those symptoms I just listed, maybe back off for a few days and then retry. And if that continues, that might be an indication that you have something known as a histamine intolerance. So I'm just letting you all know, just in case.
Interesting. Thanks for letting the audience know that. Yeah, because a lot of people I don't think would know that.
Right. Okay. Yeah, it took me a long time to figure it out, but like I say, it is quite rare, but it is out there, and some of my clients have to deal with that, and they do have to get their probiotics from a supplement.
Yeah.
But I wish I could do the fermented foods because they're like so beneficial.
Yeah, definitely. It's always better to get things through actual food rather than through a supplement.
Yeah, it's food first.
Yeah, definitely. So this episode was so good, so much information. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Just to wrap it up, can you share with our audience how they can connect with you?
Yeah, of course. So I'm mainly most active on my Instagram account, which is Viva Natural Health, VIVA Natural Health. That's all one word. I share a lot of education on there, daily health tips. I share a lot of my meals, what I'm eating, and on my Instagram stories, I do some like educational clips as well. So definitely check that out. But also on my website, which is vivanaturalhealth.co.uk. I have a blog on there as well with a lot of articles relating to gut health, PCOS, nutrition, natural remedies. And on there as well, you can sign up for my newsletter, which is a weekly newsletter. And when you sign up for that, you'll get my free download as well, which is called PCOS, 3 Common Diet and Lifestyle Mistakes to Avoid. So this is things that I've learned in clinical practice, that a lot of women with PCOS, a lot of nutrition and lifestyle things that they do, which is preventing the hormones being balanced. So definitely check that out as well. And for anyone who's interested, I have a free 30-minute consultation available for everyone with PCOS or gut health problems. That's a phone consultation, and we can go into your health in more detail, and I'll just let you know some things that you can do for your personal needs and how I could help you personally work on your PCOS.
Awesome. I'll link all of your, the social media, your website, everything in the show notes, and highly recommend everyone checks you out. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you.
I learned so much, and I'm sure everyone else that's listening has learned a lot. And yeah, thank you so much for taking time today.
Thank you, Despy.